Hello students, welcome to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. We try to understand the relationship between your average revenue, marginal revenue and elasticity of demand in this part of section. So, if you look at your marginal revenues and all this we all know, right? Even we have discussed about 5 types of elasticities, how it will work. That is elastic demand, unit elastic demand, inelastic demand, perfectly elastic, perfectly inelastic. For the students, if you are happen to miss, let me give you a brief of what is that elastic demand. The elastic demand is a quite responsive to change in the price. That is where we said elastic. Whereas unit elastic, that's where your elasticity is greater than 1, which is the elastic demand. So when in case of unit elastic, that is elasticity is equal to 1, whereas inelastic demand, that we say perfectly inelastic, it is a relatively inelastic demand, elasticity is less than 1, whereas perfectly elastic, that is infinity. Perfectly elastic is infinity and perfectly inelastic is your elasticity is 0. Please remember this. So each under the circumstances, how your AR MRs will be changed, which we are trying to get the concepts. Your MR equal to AR, that is 1 minus 1 by E, which is the positive. In general, if you see your AR is 10, elasticity is 5. If you divide that 10 in 1 minus 1 by 5, which is equivalent to 10 multiplied by 4 divided by 5 is equals to 8. So the firm operates in elastic zone because your value you got it 8, right? So the firm is operating in a elastic zone. Similarly, unit elastic, where your MR equal to AR, 1 minus 1 by divided by 1, which is equivalent to 0. For example, your price equals to 6 and elasticity is 1. So 6 MR equal to 6, function of 1 minus 1 is equals to 0. The TR is the maximum format, TR is peak. So the TR, what is the TR is the total revenue is in the highest point. Whenever there is an elastic demand, you see MR equal to AR. If it is a negative, for example, is AR equals to 2 and your elasticity is 0.2. So you divide that, you will get minus 8. So that means what? Your TR is falling, irrational output zone. So that means one would say that you should not be proceeding further for the production. So perfectly elastic. So here perfectly elastic is MR is equal to AR. So the horizontal demand curve which comes, the firm is the price taker. Okay, I am sure you know the difference between a firm and industry. Industry is combination of all firms. If you put together, it will come as an industry. A firm is a single unit, right? So here the firm is the price taker and perfect competition case, right? So gap between AR and MR is equals to 0 under the perfectly elastic. So when it comes to perfectly inelastic, your AR is a positive, MR is minus equals to minus infinity. So where the maximum gap between AR and MR, the vertical demand curve. Okay, so this you can visualize through graphical ways when you are talking about. In overall, if you see all the chapters which we have discussed in the blog, is the cost analysis covers money, real opportunity cost, short run as a fixed and variable cost, that we talked about total variable cost and total cost, short run average fixed cost, short run various cost like SCATC, SMC, all U-shaped except TFC and short run average fixed cost. As I told you, Why TFC is not in the U shape? Because whether you produce or not, whether you undertake a production or not, the fixed cost will remain same. Fixed cost will be there, though you will not produce, but the cost which has to be run, because that is a fixed asset which you are already invested. So in this particular part, we talked about in the long run, all factors, variables in the long run is envelope curve, which LMC flatter than the SMC, right? Long run average curve is the envelope curve. Long run marginal cost flatter than the short run marginal cost. Supply depends on price, right? In the unit 11 we see supply depends on price, factor costs, technology goals, natural factors, infrastructure and taxation. Law of supply is equals to direct price, which is also equivalent to supply relationship. 5 types of elasticity we have already discussed, right? Elastic, inelastic, unit, perfectly elastic, perfectly inelastic. As I told you, this particularly very important elastic, because even as a student, when you want to enter into the career profession, you need to see your services whether it is elastic or inelastic or perfectly elastic, perfectly inelastic. Depends on that where you can demand your package. If it is perfectly inelastic, you can expect higher rate of wages, because it cannot be ignored. It's inelastic. The demand won't change, right? So it is must be there. So though price increases, you cannot reduce the supply. So in that way, the last part we have discussed about revenue types, that is TR equals to your P multiplied by Q, AR equals to P, that is average revenue is equal to P. Please try to be familiar with the short terms like a TR and P and Q, which what it stands for, so that it will be easy for you to even try to do a numerical examples which will be easy for you, right? MR is margin revenue, as we discussed, delta TR by delta Q. Under the perfect computation, as we discussed, these are the key points to remember, not only our exam point of view, even in the competitive exam point of view. These are all very important. You write any exam which will be asked. P equals to AR equals to MR under perfect computation, right? Which is a horizontal. P equals to AR equals to MR. So what is the shape of the curve? Is a horizontal. Under monopolistic computation, AR greater than MR, both are downward sloping. This also can be asked. Under the monopolistic computation, AR is greater than MR, both downward sloping. Here MR is equals to AR, which is MR is a positive when you are greater than 1, 0 when it is equals to 1, negative when it is less than 1. So in this way, we have covered all our basic idea about what is the cost, what is the revenue, how are we looking at different markets. As a practical exposure, you have to identify the markets and try to connect with these graphs. As I told you, do a short-term project, basically by looking at taking a monopoly market. If you don't find at least perfect computation, monopolistic computation markets, examples you can take and try to cover the this. So these are all, not only as a subject is important, it is very important for us to apply in a real time. Thank you.